A small close-knit family of 52, and certainly more, wanted to create unique, original YouTube and TikTok videos about saving a lobster from a live tank at their local grocery store. They were positive no one else had done it, and they wanted to be the first. Their plan was coming together perfectly until it wasn't. Something terrible had happened. Everything started out as a normal, typical day in the tiny community of Different, Kentucky. About 25 or so local relatives piled into one of their cousins' pickup truck and prompted the dogs to get a move on and headed to the uptown Different grocery and bait store. About 2.5 hours later, the truck turned into the store parking lot. The excitement was just too much, and before coming to a complete stop, everyone leapt off the truck and taken headers, nosedives, and faceplants, as they always do every time they go somewhere. They were finally there. While Uncle Number 3 was strapping Grandma 7 to a utility dolly, everyone else shuffled into the store and headed straight for the live critter counter. After 8 hours of shopping, they had seen all the normal critters the store had available: live slugs, frogs, salamanders, snakes, possums, squirrels, and skunks. And then, there it was, at the end of the counter, the most enormous, beautiful live crawdad they had ever seen. Not even Nephew Number 20 had ever seen one that big, even while frog gigging or catfish noodling. Someone read the sign on the tank and concluded that the crawdad's name was Lobster. Under Lobster's name was the price. It was far more than the $1.31 they had collected. And that was the total combined cash among all of them. It was right then and there that they knew there was only one thing they could do. Dad Number 1 tossed grandson Number 18 into the tank. In a flash, 18 had grabbed Lobster and handed him off to Dad Number 5. Dad Number 5 then slipped Lobster into Grandma 7's handmade double-quilted bloomers. It was all so quick, and just like that, they were headed toward the door. It occurred to someone that instead of everyone leaving all at once, they would look less suspicious by splitting up and exiting the store at different intervals. The first to leave was son Number 11, and he wheeled Grandma 7 and Lobster right out the front door without anyone even batting an eye. The deed was done. Lobster had been stolen. 3 hours later, everyone had finally exited the store. They crammed themselves into and onto the old pickup truck again, yelled much at the dogs, and noisily faded into the dark evening. At some point during the long journey home, a second cousin noticed a strange smell emitting from Grandma 7. Everyone looked at one another with total confusion. They were stunned and began to panic. They had no idea what was wrong with Grandma 7. But during the awkward panic, Lobster dropped out from underneath her bloomers. "Oh my Lord," son Number 14 yelled. "Lobster's drying up and starting to stink something fierce." Fortunately, water is everywhere around Different, Kentucky. Daughter Number 12 quickly stuffed Lobster back into Grandma 7's bloomers, and one of the unnumbered relatives wheeled her right into the roadside creek. With bloomers soaking wet, Lobster would be fine until they arrived home. Sometime after midnight, Lobster was ready for his new abode. The only toilet in the house was not an option, as it was just too small and very, very busy. However, the bathtub was almost always available and offered plenty of room for Lobster to get some exercise. With his new home all set up, the time had come to rename Lobster. All 52 or 58 relatives threw names into one of the 200 to 300 hats hanging on the living room wall. Miraculously, every person had chosen the name Leon, and not a single one of them could explain how they came up with that name. They all said they had heard it from somewhere, but just couldn't seem to recall exactly where. So Leon it was. The realization of YouTubing and TikToking Leon was upon them. Early the next morning, around 11:30 a.m., Aunt Number 4 and Mom Number 2 began preparing breakfast for everyone. They always ate the same thing for breakfast, every day of the week: frog leg and cheese omelets with chipped crawdads on toast and thick, syrupy, boiled coffee. The kids and infants particularly loved the coffee. By the time breakfast was ready, around 5 p.m., everyone was starving, even after they ate all of the unripened walnuts right off the trees, whole. While everybody was frantically gorging themselves, they kept complimenting the cooks and how unusually delicious breakfast was. It was different this time, and everybody loved it. They could not stop eating, and almost lost control of themselves. It was as if heaven had sent them breakfast. During the frenzy, someone's father-in-law had noticed stepdaughter Number 19 was giggling and snickering about something. Eventually, she started laughing uncontrollably, and with an evil, exorcist-like voice, says, "I hope you all enjoyed your breakfast." It suddenly got quiet, and all eyes were on her now. Her caffeine addictions had always been a problem for her and everyone else around her, but this time she had gone too far. There, as she stood cradling Leon's empty shell like a doll, she pointed to the table and said, "But I shared it with all of you. Don't you like it?" The horror was real. Stepdaughter 19 had cooked Leon and served him up for breakfast, and on toast to boot. All 50 or 60 relatives surrounded her and demanded that she fess up and tell the truth about some of the other past missing pets. She said, "It was the only pet I ever ate. Honest, it was." Satisfied with her lie, everyone returned to finishing the most wonderful breakfast ever to have sat upon the old plywood eating table. Rip, Leon. Rip.